All right, so like I said, I want to make a bit more involved, or a video a bit more involved modeling session with something with a bit more complex. We made like the rubber duck before. Let's do something with like arms and legs, that kind of thing. So popping into Fusion, we had the example last time of my rather long-necked dino duck with a pretty fancy crest. But the main thing is that's real basic in so much as we made the body and then the head, put them together with a bridge tool, and then started extruding and playing the stuff like that, and then use the emboss tool to make the little wing bump outs. Well, tonight what I want to go through is more of making something a bit more involved with, say, like the little adorable plush dino toy. And again, soft features. We can certainly put creases and stuff like these into these with hard edges and such, but the main thing is what the way that this program works for what we are doing. This is more the approach we're going to get. Remember that your idea should be fully developed. Like if it's like simplified, like head and eyes are just kind of like button eyes, give it a bit more. Arms, legs, if it calls, a little tail, some little spikes on the ends, patches on the sides, that sort of thing. Little belly pat scales. And it must have some kind of accessory with a very fancy feathered hat here. Or something a bit more symmetrical. The Stego plush toy with a surf and surfboard. Scales are all added after the fact, so are the spikes and the eyes. But something like this with this level of complexity, in so much as that there is, the main body, the head, the legs, the tail, all the spines, that sort, I don't mind just simple eyes. So if you want something more complex, you can kind of think of it as it's complex in one area, other areas don't have to be as complex. Vice versa works. Think of it in those terms. But this was all modeled off of at least having some examples. So you're welcome to bring in examples, but also remember your examples do not have to be exactly what your model is. This is going to be your model. Oops, oops, oops. Sorry, I lost where I was. This is going to be your model. So if it deviates plenty, that's fine. It's your design. Plush went with more of the tail dragging kind of dino. I wanted it up in the air. So that's the kind of thing we're going for. All right. Let's start up a new design and something else. First things first, save what you got. Example. Uh Bug plush, because I found some pictures earlier. All right. Start with inserting a canvas from computer, downloads, Beetle side. Because I'm going to make, at least the idea of, a plush stag beetle. We're going to see how it comes out. But there you go. Remember, you can obviously move it around however you want, and then we will orient it afterwards. So something like this, we'll go ahead and right click to calibrate, pick a couple points. Butt to nose, how big do I want that? 15 millimeters is quite small. Let's bump that up to, I don't know, 200. Gigantic. Remember, as far as size, it's going to be kind of irrelevant because they can scale to whatever, but let's keep it, let's put it in terms of this. Printer build space is 200 by 220 by 200 millimeters. So at that full scale, not going to work. Shrink, but at the same time, we can always scale it down and all that kind of thing. So somewhere around there, that works. I definitely recommend, if you're having trouble visualizing where you want to go with this, or at least having some ideas going for this, bring in, if you can, multiple views. So in this case, I'm going to bring in an additional view. In this one, it was from the front. Back in front there, roughly right, hit OK. And you can see the problem is going to be figuring out how to get these two to scale. So easiest thing, since this is in profile and the other is front, let's check the canvas points. I can just use, say, like, go back to calibrate, and I'm just going to pick a couple of points because it will show me where that is. All right. So from about the bottom to the top of the thorax, whatever, body, 63 millimeters. Cool. All right. So that means let's calibrate the other one. Move to the front from about where the bottom is, where I'm going to put my dot right in the middle here because that's actually slightly at an angle to the top there. Cool. That's saying 9. So let's bump that up to 63. And that should be not quite perfect, but we're getting closer. Unfortunately, this front picture is not quite is not quite straight on. It's slightly tilted. So somewhere in there, I might have to go and recalibrate that just a touch. Let's do that one more time. On the front, I think I want to bring that down about the same. Yeah, let's bring that down to like 58. Okay. Now when I orbit that around, that looks a little better, but I think I'm still going to have some problems. Ultimately, I'm trying to get this front part or the main body here to match what that is because the head's out here. All right, that's going to be close enough. Like I said, you might have to fiddle around with this a little bit to get two side views to match right. Ideally, you're going to find pictures that are from straight on, from the side. If you can, from the top down is a huge help also, if you're trying to get something accurate. Otherwise, just a side view works and you can just freeform it from there. All right. So this is going to work, hopefully. Bug canvas. I know it's a beetle. Close enough. All right. So let's get to work. Entering the form workspace. And something like this, start with what seems reasonable. As in, this little guy, I think I started with a box form. This one, I think I started more of with a cylinder because it was going to be more tubular and I was going to stretch it back and forth. With this one, because it's a bit more kind of looks like the main body here kind of looks to me like a bit of a bar of soap. All right, I'm going to start with a box. Remember that you have two options, either 2-point or center point rectangle. So from here, we use center point rectangle. Yeah, one side works just fine. Or actually, let's do symmetric so it goes back and forth. We'll show you what I mean in a second. All right. Yep, right about there. And I'm just going to start with something that is close enough. As in, don't get it, try to get it exact just off the bat. Close enough. Do not hit enter. Just use your mouse click to left click. As I orbit around, you see that as I pick symmetric, it's on both sides here. Might as well apply mirror symmetry. We'll go with, nope, nope, there we go. Height symmetry, which goes up and down. When you say height, it feels like it should be top to bottom symmetry, but it's not. So meaning you can see my symmetry is left to right there. The green line going up and down, there we go. That's what I want. All right. Other thing, keep it simple. Do not worry about trying to add complexity first. We're going to stretch this a little bit to make it kind of fit closer. So meaning, all right, I'm going to stretch that out a little bit. That'll work. Orbit from the side. Again, close enough is going to work. Something to that effect. You can add some additional faces, but one of the things you want to avoid is try not to make too many coplanar, meaning don't make too many faces that have to stay flat or flatter, because this is meant to be more of a rounded object. Allow it the curvature to occur, but a smoother curvature is going to occur with fewer points, with fewer edge dividers. So keep it simple for now. Add complexity later where you need it. So, all right, that'll work for now. That'll work for now. Hit OK. So from here on, or at least for a little bit, it's going to be a little bit of just kind of playing around. So using the edit form, I think for myself, I'm going to use the vertex selector. And I'm just going to start stretching things. So from the left, just going to kind of drag this downward. What might have ended up being a better idea is since this object has, or since my beetle here has this kind of line divide between the top shell and the bottom, maybe what I should have done is moved this whole thing down to where I could use my edge, that center edge line that's right there, and use that as a divider. That might actually work pretty well. So with that in mind, I'm going to hit pause on that, or not hit pause, but I'm just going to stop, use the move tool to bring this whole thing down. Roughly about there. Okay, so now that edge line is going to be kind of about where the beetle divides. Okay, cool. Go back into form space, or form edit, and let's work from there. So that also means the whole top needs to move up. So I'm going to, from the left, selecting right. Now I'm just going to drag upwards. Now you can see where I'm kind of going with this. All right. A lot of this, again, is just going to be moving stuff around, seeing what fits better. Just selecting some features, trying to drag it up and around. This one here, down here, looks like it should be more like that. Actually, looks like I might need to rotate that. That's not going to work as well. So by vertex, that wasn't working. So if I want to try to get this little bump in right here, might need to change to edges instead. Let's try that. Drag that edge upward. Not as well. Looks like I'll probably end up needing at least one other face right there. We'll see. But for now, maybe I can kind of work that, or let's try using by face. Not really working either. Maybe something more like that. Not quite sure. Maybe if I rotate that. Closer. All right, just gonna leave that for now. We'll deal with that later. All right. So we're getting kind of closer. Dragging some things up and around. Looks like I probably would like to add a divider right there. So I can start with that. All right, let's start adding some division. So insert edge. Nope, I want it to go over there. Right about there. All right, that works well enough. Adds a divide. Now adds a little bit of feature there. Okay. So now we can start playing around with just shaping things some more. I do still need to add a head to this. So that would be come into here, edit form, which is going to be, I'm going to keep going back and forth to that. I want to select this face, but don't forget, select the face, and you need the center line. If you don't, because what I'm going to use the press and hold Alt and drag down. If you don't, it extrudes doubly. I need it to have that center line. So either select the face, press and hold Shift, and select the center, or a right selection box, and that'll grab everything. Press and hold Alt. There we go. Now I can start moving that outward for the face. I want to maybe stretch that upward with the scale tool. Rotate, move, and rotate, all that kind of stuff. I want to start getting that horn in. I can do that. I can use the press and hold Alt, extrude outward. However, one of the things with making something more cylindrical, you see how everything kind of gets a little funky like this? What I like doing is first, let's work on finishing the head itself. So something to this effect, maybe I use the scale tool, shrink that in a bit. There we go. Getting around, I'm going to end up adding a head or a face, stuff like that. But if I want to extend this outward, well, one of the things, and sometimes it gets a little bit awkward seeing through the body here. So let's look at my features again. If I look at the thing straight on, you can see it's much more of a face with the horn itself. So what I probably should do is to make that separate a little bit. I'm going to select the face. Said, okay, select that face. I'm just going to delete that. See how that instantly rounds things out? Cool. Now go back to edit form. By edge, double click that. I'm going to use the scale tool, which is the center one again, something to that effect. But one of the things is what I'm actually needing to do. I'm trying to get this head shape about where I want it. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to press and hold Alt, use the scale tool again, and that should extrude it inward. So I'm actually making like a bit of an edge there. Just shrunk that down. Cool. Now I'm going to use that same Alt extrude tool. Press and hold Alt, stretch outward, rotate, shrink. Press and hold Alt, stretch, rotate. Might need to shrink again. Press and hold Alt. You see where this is going. This part expands a little bit outward. Nope, nope, nope. There we go. Something to that effect. I'll probably have to actually make that part there a little bit of a bump out. So let's just kind of ignore that for now. Stretch, shrink. Oops, stretch, shrink. Okay, so I've gotten that pretty well close to the profile. Oh, that's actually looking not bad at all. Now I do need to close that hole. Let's hit OK. Go to Modify, Fill Hole. Boop. You can use the selectors. Either keep creases. That's if you wanted to keep it flat. I do not. go through the options, reduce star, fill star, or collapse. Collapse might work better for this because it brings it all to a point. I'm going to weld vertices. That should fuse everything nicely. Hit OK. I'm going to hide the canvases. All right, that's not bad. I might need to just kind of take that whole horn and kind of shrink it a little bit, or scale shrink it a little bit, but that's not bad at all. I can certainly go in here and say at this point, let's go to modify crease. I'm going to select that line there and hit OK. Now that has a much sharper line for the horn. So again, so much of this is going to be back and forth, playing with tools, playing with all this kind of stuff, because one of the things is you're going to have to get the bulk of what you want to get done in one session. Now, what I mean by that is I can say, yep, I like where this is, save it, and come back to it later. But what I cannot do is say, I like what I've got, save it, come back to it later, and then, oh, I need to step back and make an adjustment. So what you should do, if you are about to make a pretty major change, you can obviously save it in the computer, but what you should do, and you don't even have to finish the form here, select, copy, paste. Just make a duplicate. So I've got the first one, and I got the second one. So I can hide my original and now say, all right, I want to try something here. Let's try adding a crease to that edge line there that I was playing with. I want to see what will happen. Working all the way around. Symmetry is on, so that should work. Cool. So let's say now, because what I want to try and do is shrink everything or grow everything from that side. So what I'll probably need is make a little bit of a divide. So let's go to insert edge, double click all the way around, make it a divide there. Let's kind of shrink that right there. That seems about okay. I'm not sure if it's going to work, but let's find out. Hit OK. Now, everything below that line, I'm going to try this. Again, not sure if this is going to work. Right hand select box. So everything that touches, I want to actually also make sure to grab that. All right. Edit form. Now I'm going to perform a 2D scale, so shrinking it inward. Let's try that. Shrink in a little bit because I'm trying to make this little edge line here. Yeah, that's not bad. Okay. So the idea there is I was trying to mimic what's going to be this little divide ridge here. But I wasn't sure if that was going to work. So I made a duplicate copy, but I still have my original if I didn't like it. So because you do not have a history to work from, it's all free modeling. If you're going to make a significant change and you're not sure if it's going to work, pause, save, copy, paste, make a duplicate, work the duplicate. You can always delete that and go back to your original. I am still in the form workspace. I have not gotten out of that. Making that duplicate will help immensely. All right, I actually like where this is going, so I'm just going to keep working with the duplicate. All right, cool. Bring up my canvas again, keep working from there. So one of the things there, got a little bit of this ridge line here, keep playing with that. Now maybe I'm going to try and shrink in what I was doing before. Again, edit form. Let's try by vertex, selecting all of those, and now let's see what happens when I shrink it in. Not as much. What I should have done, and it's going to be a little more difficult now, but let's use a selection box of all inside there. I also want to make sure I'm getting both sides of that one. Now let's drag it in. There we go. That's what I was trying to get to. Rotate, drag it down, because again, I was trying to keep this shelf here. Good. I'm happy with that. Okay. That's not bad at all. Every once in a while, you can look from the front, but I'm working mostly from the side there because the front actually seems like it's kind of taking care of itself. I'll probably end up wanting to stretch this slightly, so I'll play with that in a little bit, but for right now, I'm okay with this. I'm going to go back to working on the sides, and then I will work on dragging these legs out. So far, I am just ignoring the legs and working with what will be just the body. So right here, looks like I'll probably need an edge because I need to make a better divide for excuse me, this head. Now, one of the things to keep in mind here is I have found that if you create, hey, Rumble, if you accidentally create triangles or like multi-sided faces, things get a little screwy. Try to keep your edges as four-sided faces. Or sorry, try to keep your sections as four-sided faces. What I mean by that is when you hit OK here. So like this whole body panel. One, two, three, four. When they get less or more, it gets weird. Because remember that this is not a sculpting program. This is ultimately a surface working program for like building stuff like from surfaces that would be like a car body or airplane fuselage or something like that. So it's not meant to do like, adding textures and stuff like that. So that kind of stuff, breaking it way more into a bunch of tiny little polygons and stuff like that works way better on a different program. On what we're trying to do here, keep it from going screwy. So keep it from getting too your polygon or your face polygons from getting less or more than four faces. If it does, not a big deal. We can always tweak it later. It's just that sometimes the geometry gets a little screwy. All right. So one of the things I want to do is I do want to make a little division here. So let's go to add insert edge. See if it'll let me. See, I've gotten this little face here. Oh, I still had a selection going. All right, cool. So I just want to drag that edge right to about where that divide for the head's going to be. Hit OK. All right, a little more complex. See, keep adding complexity only where you need it. So, all right, I still got my vertex. Let's drag that in. Oops, cool. Now this is getting a little bit odd, so I might have to add more faces. Remember that if you want to add like a really sharp face or a sharp compression or something, which you'll need to do, hit OK. Let's go to insert edge on that one, and let's go to like both, and let's make the edge close to the line that I want. So 0.1, that's fine. Remember it's 0 to 1 is from the edge line you've selected, and 1 being all the way to the next available face or next available edge. Hit OK there. It's going to add a little complexity. That's okay, because what I want to do now, edit form, I want to go by edge, and I want to select all the way around. So you can see all the way around. Cool. Now what I can do is I can use the scale tool, shrink that, and I'm going to hopefully add a little bit of a divide there. Now the problem is look what it's doing up here. That might be a little problematic. We're going to find out. Yeah, that's definitely going to add to be a problem, but I can fix that. Okay, so because what I wanted to do is just make that little pinch point. That's just going to make where the head is technically from the body. Cool. Okay. Oops, I didn't mean to hit OK on that. All right. Let's go from the bottom because I definitely need to fix that vertex. So select by vertex. I want to grab that one. And because it's symmetry over there is fine. I just want to drag that right back out. Cool. All right. Hopefully that won't cause a total error later, but we'll deal with that when we get there. Cool. That just fixed that part. All right. So we're still playing with this stuff. Cool. Like I said, if you can find a top or bottom view, that'll really help. But I'm just kind of dividing stuff up where I'm going to be. All right. So the next step that I want to show you is with a simple shape like this. Now, again, I still have more to do. I still want to add the horns, that kind of thing. This one's, I still want to add like the little bump out for this main horn. But one of the main things I want to work on is now that I've kind of established the top and bottom, my soft squishy friend Stag Beetle here needs some legs. Now this is where this is where it's going to start getting a little screwy because we're going to start adding some faces, some features, or we're going to create faces by adding more insert edges, adding more edge lines. We're going to divide up down here, but that's going to allow us to make more space and stuff like this. So the whole point, again, I'm keeping it simple to do the overall thing, add complexity only where you need it. So one of the things I haven't done a bit, save. All right. Body. Close enough. I'm going to make some other features later. All right. So let's start figuring out how I'm going to make the legs. Now, again, this is not an anatomy lesson in this, but most bugs don't have legs coming out of their head or their butts. It's out of the body. So I want to make sure that they're kind of closer in, roughly where they are. So what would make sense is right now, I could technically, what I kind of want to do is make legs coming out of faces, and I have that's got 6 legs. So 1, 2, 3. That would actually make sense. However, I don't want to extrude straight from one. What I mean by that is I would like a little bit of space between. So I'll probably need to add a little bit of an edge there, but just for grins, let's see how this is going to work first. Maybe maybe I won't have to. So let's start at the front. I'm going to start from the bottom, go to edit form. I want to select by face to do this. So what I want is to stretch outward. But what I have found is before I do that, if I need something to be rounded coming off of a more square body or something like that, I have found that deleting the face works well to automatically round out a thing. So let's stop from there, select that face, hit delete, see what happens. See how that kind of rounded it out? I mean, obviously it didn't make it perfectly round, but not a bad start for where a leg's going to go. Now start from edit form, select by edge, double click, and I want to kind of shrink this a little bit so it's a little bit more where I want it to be. And okay, that's not too bad, I hope. Now, because think of how this is going to go. If your body that you're working from is kind of like, you know, somewhat rectangular, you can just go straight out the sides. But for this, because I made that little bump down, that little shelf, I want to kind of orient that first. So what I mean by that is for my little bug buddy, I'm going to first rotate that opening down a little bit. Might even need to drag it a little bit away. There we go. That seems reasonable. That's a good starting point. Sometimes you're going to have to work back and forth. Remember, if it is helpful to you, you can shift. Oops. To multi-mode by pressing and holding shift and pressing 1. So that will help you see an object like this in multiple views. Again, back to where we first started. If you're more familiar with drafting or other CAD programs, this is your standard setting. It's a little bit easier to see from multiple views at once. If that's too much, go back, press and hold shift, 1 goes back to your perspective view only. So just want to throw that out there if it is a help to you. All right, so from here, we're going to kind of just play at it. Edit form. I'm selecting by edges. I have that edge selected. Okay. Press and hold Alt, drag outward. This is where we're just going to kind of start playing here. I can shrink, stretch outward again. Now, one of the things is don't worry about, well, if your plush animal has more of like plush legs, you can just kind of keep it a little bit more tubular, stuff like that. That's fine. If you want to make more of angles or things like that, it might be best to make the angle as you work. So those of you that are like, I know somebody said like making a frog or something like that. Front legs, yeah, you can just kind of splay them straight out and then you can move them around later. The back legs, it might be better if you're making that whole like, frog legs go back and forward, might make that as you're working rather than like making straight legs out and then folding them. Sometimes it gets difficult to work with everything. So in something like this, yeah, maybe we'll keep it like that, straight out for there. But on the next one, maybe what I'll do is I will press an Alt extrude, but now I'm going to move it to the side and I'm going to drag that forward. But now I also have to work from the top a little bit to rotate that. So this is what I mean by it. Sometimes you're going to have to work in like multiple views to work around. So take your time working through this, see what works best. You might have to just kind of tweak it here and there, here and there, here and there. Press and hold Alt. All right. Not too bad. I mean, not great, but not too bad. And this is where you just kind of play. Oops. Select the wrong thing. I'm trying to use a flat scale. Squish it down a little bit. There you go. Kind of deciding how far I want to go because my picture, yeah, it's got some little bump outs. I'll make those later. It's got the little kind of like pincher feed at the end. All right, I kind of want to make something like that. All right, cool. So let's say I'm going to go from there. We tried it before, worked nicely. So what I want to do is press and hold Alt, and I'm going to use the scale tool to shrink, and it makes kind of a little shrink down there. Cool. And a little more. Okay, cool. Now I can press and hold Alt again and drag out. Now I got my kind of little fiddly bit here. Do it again. Now this is where you kind of have to also imagine where you're going next. As in, because if I want to make these little toe legs here, the little split opens, like the little oven mitt legs, I'm gonna have to split this at some point. So what I mean by that is now maybe I can stretch this now, or I have to like make it like this and then divide it out afterwards. I'm going to try something that seems reasonable to me in that I'm going to stretch this out a little bit, hit OK. I'm going to fill this hole. I keep saying cap, but I want to, let's try a couple different ones. Reduce star. Don't really like what that's doing, but that might be better. Yeah, let's try that. Okay. So what I'm doing there is I'm just trying to close up that hole, hit OK, and I actually want to intentionally add an edge in the middle of that. I don't want both, just one. I want that on the other side. So negative -0.5. So smack in the middle. And in this case, I can go back, use my edit form by face, and this is the one time I don't want to select that center because, oops, lost where I was. If I press and hold F, press Alt and drag outward. Oh, I didn't have symmetry applied there. It's on both sides. Let's Control Z that. I'm going to select both faces. Let's see if this divides like it normally would. Nope. This time it kept everything together. All right, so I'll have to do this separately. Press and hold Alt to extrude outward. Now I'll have to do it separately over here. And I get my little split toes. So kind of sort of different options. Try to experiment. You're gonna find some stuff that doesn't work, some things that do. Like back over here, if I wanted that line there to like be sharper, remember I can go back in, crease, double click that line. Ooh, don't know if I like that or not, but excuse me, it's a start. Okay, so that is, let me hide my canvases. That is not a bad start to my Beetle. Remember, plush, so don't worry about super detail. I definitely want it for myself, just for my own satisfaction. I want to go back and add like the little ribs on the side, the legs, that sort of thing. But okay, so let's keep working. Save front legs. But again, remember, I have not used the finish form tool. I'm still working in there. Every once in a while, no harm in doing that finish form just to check. Hey, yep, it all translated. No errors. Up in there was definitely going to be possibly an error, but it didn't. So we'll deal with that as it may. All right, go back in. Cool. No change. All right. Now it's also giving me a ghost of what was. Remember, I have that other body still existing. That's cool. All right. So let's try from here. Delete that face. Gives me a round, but see what I was talking about is it's a little close to that edge or to that front leg. I'm going to try using the edit form and extrude out from there. Let's see what it looks like. Because again, a lot of this, just try it out. All right, I'm not too bothered by that split there. There's a little bit of it kind of pulled out a little bit, but that's not too bad at all. Okay, cool. So for this leg, I'll bring my canvas back up. Maybe what I'll do is drag it more straight out, and then I can try rotating it later. I want to drag it out for now just to kind of give myself a sense of where I'm going. All right. From the front, kind of sort of like that. Okay. Not bad. Maybe in this one, I'm going to scale this up because it's a bigger leg. Cool. Alt, stretch. And like I said, I'm just going to kind of keep it going. Maybe I'll flatten it a little bit from here, widen it a little bit, just playing. All right. Drag outward. I'm not keeping a close eye on how far I'm stretching these because I can always shrink it back, anything like that. So again, just kind of working with what seems right. But this would be an ideal spot to have had an above view if you could have found one. If you didn't, that's okay. Just working with what I got. All right. I'm going to say that's close enough. Maybe, let's see, how many sections did I make? 1, 2, 3, and then the fourth. So 1, 2, 3. Oh, yeah, 2, 3. So let's just make one more. All right, cool. Now, Alt, scale downward. Woo, in. There we go. And stretch out to make my little bug leglets. Once more. All right. Let's kind of flatten that a little bit. All right. Go to fill hole cap. It should remember my last selection. Good. Insert edge. Right in the middle. Good. Might need to flatten that a bit more, but go back to edit form. Go to by face. And extrude outward from there. Whoop. Little bug toes. Same. Little bug toe. Kind of a little funkier. I think the first time I did a better job. That's all right. All right. That'll work. I want to crease that edge. There we go. If it kind of collapses in on you, might need to do a little bit of tweaking there. That's all right. Looks like this one kind of got a little pudgy. I'll go back in, edit form. I will select all of those, and let's just use a scale tool to shrink that a little bit. Cool. All right. We'll call that good enough. Kind of a little hot dog leg there, but that's okay. Now let's try the back one. And now this one, see when I go to delete, all right, it's a bigger hole. That's actually not bad at all. But let's say I didn't like what that looked like. So what I'm going to do in this case, just for an example, oh, not edit form, sorry. I want to insert an edge, and I just want to break that up a little bit, give myself a little bit of space. I don't know, let's say 0.2. All right. So a little bit more space there. All right. Now when I go to delete that face, opens it up, and I just have this little, sorry, let me hide the canvas so you can see. So I just want to have this little bit of a space between. So that's all. If you're trying to make stuff right next to each other, if it works, great. If you need a little bit of a gap, use that insert edge tool and just open it up a little bit more. Cool. Edit form, bring my canvases back up. Oof, that is getting really complicated. Let's hide one of them so I can at least try to keep some semblance of working here. All right. Edit form to that one. I think this time I'm going to try rotating that a little bit and then dragging it outward before I start extruding. All right. Dragging out. Not bad. Rotate. Drag out. Rotate. Oops. Drag out. Rotate. How's that looking? Oops. Remember, you can most certainly take it and run with whatever your plans are. No reason that it has to stay exactly the same as your original model or your canvases. All right. So from there, start shrinking that. Alt and scale downward. Now start to extrude that little buglet out. 1 and a 2. Finish that. Fill hole. Yep. Insert edge. Other one, I want negative 0.5. Right in the middle. Good. And then back to edit form by face to give it my little bug toes. Bug toes. All right, not bad. And one more. All right, not terrible. I would like to shrink all of that a little bit. Now, be careful once you start making stuff that's going to overlap, because if I went to just select all of those, great. Problem is, I have also selected vertices over here. So once you start getting things complex and in one dimension, it starts to overlap. So if I'm looking at it straight on, remember that it's going to select everything it sees. So if what I'm trying to do is take the last little end there and scale it down just to kind of flatten a little bit. So what I might have to do instead is select from the top instead to avoid accidentally selecting part of the body. There we go. And I was just doing that, squishing it in a little bit. Okay, cool. I want to crease right there. Boop. All right. So my legs don't match yet. I'm going to keep playing with those, but you can see how this is starting to develop pretty effectively. Again, I'm doing all of this from that one box form. I'm not saying that you have to do it this way. This can just be a actually slightly more effective and efficient method for modeling than trying to glue a bunch of stuff together, because as we found, bridge tools get a little bit problematic. Now for the next part, I do specifically want to use something extra so I can show you how you might have to work some of those solutions. All right, so those legs actually worked pretty good. I'm gonna hit save. Legs mostly done. So now I want to add the horns. Now, in order to do that, realistically, I would just divide this face up to extrude the horns straight out. But let me hide the body so you can see what I'm working with. I want to have these horns coming out. But for the sake of showing you some other ways to work this, that way it'll end up with some issues that you might have to figure out. Excuse me. I'm going to instead add bodies. Oops. All right, so I got my mostly beetle shape. I still need to do some tweaking and such. Probably not a bad idea to do that now. Real quick, I'm just going to select by face. Ultimately, what I want is I'm trying to stretch the sides a little bit. And what I mean by that is from the front, I had that canvas kind of squishes out. So if I stretch straight out, it's going to stretch the whole thing. But if I rotate it a little bit, yeah, that's a little bit more of what I actually want. Okay, cool. That's really about all I wanted on that. All right. So let's add some horns onto this little bugger. Um, Obviously, my two images are kind of a little bit conflicting because of the way it projects. So let's just start with, in this case, I'm going to use a cylinder. I'm going to start from the front, and I'm just going to select out here because I'll move it into position afterwards. Okay, let's start from there, drag outward. I don't know, 15 millimeters. Cool, good. I said 15. Start from there. Left click to finish. All right. Now, obviously, I can drag outward. I want to minimize the amount of faces because I'm going to add my own complexity. All right. Start there. Now, honestly, right off the bat, I already messed up, but I'll fix that. No symmetry because I'm going to make one horn and then I'm going to make the second one using a different mirrored symmetry. All right. So what I meant by I already messed up is I kind of wanted to have this rotated. So not a big deal. Oops, wrong rotate. Move the body. There we go. More about like that. All right. Free transform, kind of find a place where it's probably going to be just about there-ish. Where does it start? Over on the canvas. Actually starts down about right there. Okay, cool. All right. So remember that cylinders and such, there's no top or bottom. It's just the walls. You add the top and bottom later. All right. So let's finish it. Let's keep extruding. Just going to Alt, drag it. Oops. Oh, I was on move copy. Whoops. Edit form, back to edges. So that one, cool. Now, sometimes with something like this, it might help to work just from the top, because I'm going to need to rotate and just kind of keep working my way around. Rotate, rotate. Extrude. Rotate, rotate. Extrude. That one I probably need to shrink a little bit. Start getting these kind of more pointed. All right. That's not bad at all. I kind of like where that's going. That's about the same spot. Looks like I made them too far forward, but I could just move the whole thing backwards. All right, let's hit OK. I want to cap that side. Let's use fill hole. This time, I think I'm going to use fill star or collapse. Yeah, I think collapse works. Hit OK. All right. Now, trick to this is, all right, let's just actually say, let's rename these. I'm starting to lose what I'm doing here. Horn 1. Okay. Now, right now, let me hide all the things. My selection here is, it is a, let's essentially treat this as like a 5-sided box, meaning like it's open on one end. It doesn't exist as a solid. It exists as it's open. So it's just that tube that happens to be capped at the end. So how do I connect this in place? Well, first let's finish orient it and putting it in place. Bring my canvases back up, select and move. Let's just kind of drag this in place. That works. From the front, now I'm going to rotate this a bit. Again, plopping it more or less in place. If I need to rotate some more, that's okay. Something about like there. Obviously, this starts getting real weird trying to orient everything. Okay, cool. So the problem is, how do I get that stuck on there? Well, I can just technically join them, but for its example, the problem is, I'm going to go to finish form. One of these, the body, reads as a solid. The horn reads as a surface object, shown in orange, expressed as silver on the outside, gold on the inside. So I need to join those together in the form space in this case, because I want to continue working with them. All right, so let's go back in the form workspace here. So what I want to do, figure out how to move that in place. Now, realistically, in this case, I probably should have moved this out. Dang it, it keeps moving everything. Let's move that outward so it's actually floating out, so that way I can show you what I'm doing here. All right. Now, again, it's just showing that ghost image of after I moved it, just so that way you can see where it just was. Of course, there's more things to see, so it's just a little confusing. All right. So I need to join these two together. So I need, excuse me, I can either bridge that together, or I might have to use Weld Vertex. But a couple of things on this. For one, I want to have two of these. So first of all, let's apply symmetry, but I want mirror symmetry, which is essentially mirror duplicate in this. So it makes a mirrored copy outside. So select that one, select my body. My mirror plane is the origin plane. If you can't quite see it, hide all the things. Where's my origin plane? There you are. Oops. Cool. Hit OK. So now I got my copy. Anything I do to this one, it's going to make a mirrored move on the other side. But if I want to use bridge or join vertices, weld by vertices, these sides need to match. So that's going to be a problem. Mainly in that I should have made sure that this cylinder had fewer faces in the round. This is going to be somewhat problematic. I might be able to work around that, but let's see. But I need a hole over here. So I can't just delete that face. That just destroys the entire bug side. So let's Control Z that. And let's add some edges in here. Or if I need to just kind of isolate, what I can do is I can actually use the subdivide tool. Same thing, it just adds more by faces. So select that, and you can see how it's going to already add faces here. Cool, that's actually what I want. 2 by 2, great. Now I have that smaller hole. Hit delete. All right, cool. That's actually a lot closer to what I want. But the problem's going to be this horn. Look at all these faces here. That's definitely going to be a problem. So one of the things I can try doing is going around and deleting some of these edges. Now it's going to flatten this out a little bit, but that might not be a bad thing. Hey.
Hello.
All right. So let's see if that works. Okay, so now if I delete this face, all right, I have 4 edges and 4 edges. So that actually worked for now. We'll see. Problem is that's a heck of a big hole to that horn. So I'm going to have to do one or the other of get these a little bit closer because remember, bridge or weld vertices works nicely, but it doesn't work perfectly in that like you got to get them a little bit closer. So let's just go to edit form real quick. Let me use an edge tool. Double click that. Come on. There we go. And I just need to see about making these match a little bit better. And you can see in the corner over here, it's making the same modifications to my other one. Yeah. All right. That's close-ish. This is going to be a problem up here in the front because they'd need like an actual gap to work. So let's hit OK. I'm going to have to move this whole horn just back a little bit. But now, because I have the symmetry duplicate going, my move selection icon comes up smack between the two. So let me just drag this back a little bit. I'm just trying to create a little gap between there. Let's move around, make sure it's all sides. All right, cool. That should work. Should. I'm definitely seeing a problem up front here, but we're going to have to deal with that afterwards. All right. Let's try. Where are you? Bridge. Let's see how if it works. Double click the one side, side 2, double click the other. Warning, unable to work because periodic to non-periodic. Now, problem is technically that's the same amount of faces, but they're so close together, it's causing problems. All right. Now, if you don't, oh, I did it anyway. Weird. That's not what I wanted at all. So let's repeat that bridge. All right, let's see. That's weird. I was not expecting it to go through. So saying I got an error, but weird that it worked. So let's try one face and preview. All right, it's okay. All right, it's working, but it is, there we are. So it created a pretty problematic area, which you don't see immediately, but one of the things we're going to start having to work with as we got this more complex. Let's switch utility modes and go to box mode. All right. You can see overlap right there. That's definitely a problem. How do we fix that? Well, we're going to have to deal with this. All right. So one of the ways, obviously, let's control Z this hole to do, is it probably would have been better to have moved this whole thing outward a little bit more. So let's do that first and foremost. Move this. Now, this is starting to look weirder and more complex just because I have different versions going. Now, problem here. I have symmetry on. As I move it left and right, it takes both with them. They do not move in and out equally. So be aware of that. That's why one of the working with symmetry sometimes gets a little messy. You can try, let me just cancel that. One of the things you can try, bring up the move tool, is instead of that, you can try using instead the edit form tool and just select the whole thing, and instead try using the scale tool. But it obviously stretches the whole thing, but it can work in a pinch. However, honestly, best option, if you have to move something that you already have mirrored like this in and out like that, just delete one of them. You can always go back. Problem is that deleted both of them. All right. So if that happens to you, in order to delete one, and just go back and work with the other. Clear symmetry, select one of those, chop it off. Now I can delete one. All right, cool. Let's move that. I know this is seems like a very unnecessary amount of steps to make this work, but this is some of the troubleshooting you might have to go through. That's why I wanted to make sure to do this. All right. So now let's try that. Go to bridge, side 1, side 2. Still getting an error. Probably because I need to make the horn side be a little more flat. So before I do that, let's go try that. By edge, double click, rotate, just get that a little bit closer. Cool, that should work. All right, let's go to bridge. Oops. Double click, double click. All right, so the reason it's giving me the warning, the problem is not so much with the connection here. The problem is going to be with this overlap that somehow got created at the front. So let's hit cancel. Let's hide that horn for now. Now, of course, it's doing this stuff. It's giving me that ghost image. If you need to, usually the way to clear that, just go to finish form. It's going to give me an error. That's okay. All right, it's not okay at all. Go back in. And now it's going to leave me with that error message. Great. Okay, because it was incomplete, it's going to leave me with that error. All right, so clearly we got to fix this first. Okay, so let's go to utility mode, or rather, first let's just check out repair body. All right, it's giving me the start points. Yep, problems. Let's try auto repair. Made some adjustments for me, but this right here is still a problem. Let's hit OK. Let's try display mode, box form. All right. So it's not clearly showing it, but I think what's causing the problem is, see how this point down here ended up? Let's try shifting that, because when I use the scale tool for all of these to make that little divide for the bug head, looks like it did some funky stuff that was carrying over. Kind of expected that. All right, go to here. Let's try moving just that vertex up. Ah, okay. What I assumed was one was actually a couple vertices. There we go. So what happened is it looks like it created, if I zoom in enough, there's actually 2 vertices. All right, that's definitely a problem. So let's try some stuff here. One of the things, maybe I can try deleting just that edge. Ooh, that's definitely going to cause a problem. Very strange. You can see this point there. All right. So maybe instead, because what I'm trying to do is bring those together, let's try what I was going to have to try the other way, weld vertices. So let's take vertex to vertex. Let's shift to midpoint. Midpoint just means the two will meet in the middle. So let's try selecting one, select the other. Let's see what that does. As I zoom out, all right, it still has that point there. However, now if I go to edit form by vertex, that looks a lot better. Hit OK. And let's just try utilities, repair body. All right, that fixed it. See how it went rounded again? There we go. Okay. Now, hopefully, it'll actually clear those errors out. Now there's of course, it fixed that spot. Now there's a problem somewhere else. All right, fine. Return. Yes, yes, yes. Self-intersecting errors. Oh, okay, that's a way easier fix. So what had happened is, if I zoom in, it's just showing that those two are intersecting. Way easier to fix, a little bit difficult to grab. So I'm going to switch utility mode again. To box, it's just a little bit easier to grab things sometimes. Now, go to edit form. Might have to grab everything by face here. Nope, not the whole thing. Let's do a left selection box. I want to grab all of those too. And I want to make sure to grab that one. And I'm just working my way around. All right. Oops. Make sure to grab all of those too. All right, cool. That should be the whole leg there. But I can leave this selection unchecked because hopefully what'll happen is when I move the leg down, it'll just drag with. Let's see. Drag that down. And you can obviously rotate a little bit if you want. Keep dragging down. All right. That looks like it's clear up in there. Hit OK. Let's try it out. Finish form. Yeah, cool. Easy fix. That one actually worked. Okay, so that was just a self-intersection. The other one got some weird errors, and I ended up having to use the weld vertex to vertex. So that's one of the ways that tool works, vertex to vertex. The only reason I knew how to do that because I had to zoom way in, and when I finally got zoomed in, what looked like 1 point spread out, and it was 2 points. All right, good gravy. Back in here. Okay. All right, now we can switch back to utility mode, back to smooth mode. There we go. All right, cool. Let's bring the horn back up. All right, now this should work. Go to bridge, double click one side, select the other, double click, preview. I'm still getting an error. What the heck? Let's see what happens. All right, well, that worked. So it shouldn't be a problem. But a couple of things. One, I did want to maintain the crease, so I should have selected that. So let's repeat that. Double click one side, double click the other. I want to keep creases. Do it again. All right, sharpened it, but did some weird stuff. So I'm definitely gonna have to do some adjusting. All right, so it was working, but I'm not liking the results as much. So I want to show you what happens instead with Weld Vertices. So same deal, got that same box, same issues, that kind of stuff. So let's go instead to what I just did before, Weld Vertices. So you have the options, either vertex to vertex, means just like using the joint tool to move things, the first thing you select is what will move. The second thing you select is where it will move to. Vertex to midpoint means you select both of them, meet them halfway. The other one, weld to tolerance, let's not worry about that one right now. All right. So I should only have 4 vertices here. That should be okay. So let's try it out. Snap one. It's going to cause errors. That's okay. Oh, right. Okay, hang on a second. I skipped a step. Reason it's causing one of the major errors? Symmetry. I have symmetry applied to the body, but I have just one horn. I need to go and replace that other one. All right. Bring the symmetry back up. I want mirror duplicate. Select that body. Excuse me. My mirror plane is the origin plane, but oh, I can find it right there. If you can't, hide the stuff. Select by plane. There we go. Hit OK. Great. Now I got my copy. All right. Now I can go back to Weld Vertices and see how that goes. All right. I don't want midpoint. I want vertex to vertex. Let's try that. 1. It's going to give me errors for now. That's okay. 2. 3. And 4. All right. So that just flared it all out a lot more. Oh, it's not mirroring. That's problematic. All right. So let's just see. Now, it's one of the main reasons it's giving me the error is because symmetry is on, and that's obviously throwing it off. So I'm going to have to repeat that. I assumed it would have done this automatically, but that's problematic. All right. So vertex to vertex gives me some real weird error issues. The reason you would use the weld vertices instead of bridge is when just whatever you're doing just refuses to allow the bridge tool to work. Sometimes you'll just have to go with Weld Vertices. I don't know why it's still red. Let's try hitting finish form. Okay, no idea why. It was just doing that. So, all right, cool. That worked. Still kind of funky, but we'll keep playing with it. Go back and we'll kind of keep adding stuff. The red, it's a false error at this point. It's the only, it shouldn't be showing me red, but there we are. But we can bring our canvases back up and keep working at this. Obviously, I'm going to keep adding features and stuff like that. I will come back to it later on. But for now, let's say we like what we're doing. One of the things I do want to add, like little eyeballs. So something like this, we could just use just a sphere in this case. I don't need to actually extrude this out from the body itself. So something like this, we can just say like, use a sphere, create it there, right about in the middle. It's hard to see. So let's say, yes, 6 millimeter. It's making it right in the middle. So if you can't see what you're doing, hide everything. I definitely want to reduce the amount of faces. This is way too much. There we go. Yeah, that works pretty well. Symmetry, I'm not going to worry about it right now. And, oh yeah, that actually is right about where I want it. All right, so let's move it into place. Right about there. Unhide the bodies, and we're going to just drag this straight out so my little eyeball sits outside the head. So, like I said, if you're doing something complex enough, doing something like this for an eyeball, we'll hit finish form. And in this case, we could simply just join these together using a combine tool. That would work perfectly fine. Not worried about that. Other things would be like I wanted to add more creases, add some more divisions. So I'm going to leave that eyeball alone for now. So where were my images? All right. Hard to see, but I want to start adding features like these. So I'm going to need to divide this face here, stuff like that. I want to make sure that I have an edge line to follow, that sort. So what I need is to make sure that my bodies have a divide and something like that. So how I did the head here, I want to make sure that I can shrink down this body section. So, oops, it keeps doing that. I need a excuse me. I need a ridge right there. So let's insert edge. I want it double both all the way around. Let's shrink that closer. I don't know, 0.2. Sure. It's going to add a little more complexity. That's all right. Edit form by edge. Double click that edge. Use the scale tool to shrink a little bit. Let's shift that downward. That works pretty well. We'll hit OK. And this time I want to try to make that a little bit sharper. So I'll go to Crease. Ooh, did some weird stuff. But that definitely made that crease line, well, that line a lot sharper creased. Cool. Again, you can back and forth to edit form to bump this stuff back out. Like I want to bring that edge up a little bit. Actually, it looks like I need to use the scale tool to stretch it and then drag it up. That kind of thing. And of course, one of the things I'm definitely running into is this back looks a lot more square than I would like. So let's try, oop, not the whole profile. Let's try just selecting around these edges. And let's just try dragging that up a little bit. Maybe I need to instead scale it a bit more and then move it backwards. I'm just trying to round this out just a bit more. So yeah, it's going well enough. Those kind of areas look like they're going to work. Okay, let's just call that good enough for now. We can always come back and play with it more. Let me hide my canvases. Don't know why it's still showing a red as an error. Shouldn't. Those are fine. Let's hit save. Good enough for now. So now it would be like bringing in details and such like that. Before we used The pipe tool on some of these edge lines, I want to do that again. So I'm going to bring up, oh, did I not hit finish form? Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. All right. So finish form. Yeah, this still needs work. That's all right. We're getting there. So I'm going to bring up the pipe tool and let's select some lines. I do not want to cut. I want to join. And let's make those a little bit larger. 5 ought to do. Now I'm going to run into some problems here because it's not it's not an easy enough curve. So let's try like around there. Hey, nice. That gave me that little kind of rounded edge that I was wanting. Okay, cool. That's actually pretty good. Let's hit OK and repeat the process. Down around, going to get an error because I'm running into stuff. So if you get errors with the pipe tool, what you can do is uncheck the chain selection, and hopefully it'll let me work in just that section. So at least I can also drag along, see where my error point is. Yep, kind of where I figured. It's right there. So I'm going to have to go back into the edit form and flatten that out a little bit, but we'll deal with that in a minute. Or let's hit it right there, repeat the pipe. Let's see if it'll connect to that section. No, that one's, the geometry is all screwy there. So I'm not going to be able to do that until I fix that. But we can try to continue. Repeat pipe. Let's try up here. Not letting me continue. Trying the chain selection. It's not. So I'm going to have to just do this all manually. Definitely make use of some of these other tools. This is a great way to add features to your design that you didn't necessarily have to directly model in. Might have to zoom in a little bit and make sure that's actually connecting. So like right there, that obviously does not. So what you might have to do with a section like that, let's try the push-pull tool. It's kind of like extrude, only it kind of does its own thing. So let's try extruding downward. Oh my, that is doing some very, very problematic things. See, I don't know why it's throwing it out here. That is very strange. So push-pull did not work. Let's try direct extrude. That looks like it's going to work better, but I don't want it to cut. I want it to join. So it looks like I'm getting almost too far with one and not far enough with the other. So let's split the difference. Let's 2.5 that. That looks pretty darn good. All right, so I need to make sure to go around and do the other side. Select that face, extrude, 2.5. Stop cutting. Join. Nice. That joined those sections really well. So yeah, you can absolutely make use of those kind of features. Such now I'm gonna continue to work these legs and such. Don't worry about that for now. But let's see what else we might need from our canvas. All right, let's hide one of them because that's just getting chaotic. A lot of this looks like it's just going to be colors, just different top and bottom. But remember, you can always go in and add like things like spots and such. So just to remind you how you can go about that. So onto something like this, let's do a sketch. If you want them two separate ones, let's instead do a construction plane floating out to the side. Doesn't matter how far, just long as it's out. Do a sketch, something to that effect. And let's just kind of do some blobs. I know this doesn't have spots on it, but whatever, it's my bug. Oops. Something to that effect. Just close that up. Good enough. Hit OK. All right. Now we're going to use the Emboss tool. Sketch profiles, that one and that one. Faces, I want those. And I actually want to deboss, so it'll cut inward. And that looks pretty good, actually. Hit OK. Nice. Now, if I wanted something different on the other side, I can do the same. I'll need a construction plane on that side. Float it out. I had it 100 millimeters away, so I'll just keep with that. Sketch on that plane. And on this one, we'll do like a big old blob. Oops, I did not close that sketch. So let's just drag that point over there. And if I really wanted to add a little bit more in there because I missed a spot, oh, I can throw a point on by point. Hit OK. That just now adds an additional feature. Only now it's not wanting to react. Fine. Whatever. We'll just drag it around. And if I need to, we'll tweak this. Maybe we'll just drag this outward. Fine. Good enough. All right. Now we got a big old black spot on that side. Cool. Same. Emboss or perform deboss. Profile. Faces. There's 2 millimeters. That works. All right. So obviously I still want to add features as far as like the little bug legs and excuse me, I definitely need to go in and fix this spot here, but that's pretty well we're going to get to on this right now. So let's bring up the appearance tool. Save spots, then appearance tool. Oh, let's see. Now, the project is plush, so if you want, there are fabrics. You do not have to make it out of fabric. These are just options, especially since they're pretty limited. So, I mean, you could throw, I don't know, the whole thing's yellow, and then let's throw like, remember to select by faces to add like detail coloring in between just by the faces. But by no means do you have to use the um, fabric tool or fabric appearances. You can put whatever you please on that. So I still need to add a second eye. That can just be that can just be combined, joined, but I still need to make a second one. So that's cool. I definitely want to add features to isolate the horns and things like that, but that's not bad. Sorry, I couldn't spell appearances. So keep working at it, but I really wanted to show you how you can go about doing quite a lot of work from a single object body, from a single form body. So hopefully works well for you. Go from there. And if you run into trouble, like this leg almost did, almost self-intersecting. I think it only does that afterwards with the pipe tool that I applied. Let's switch to auto colored mode. Probably have to go back in and edit form and just drag that leg down like I did the back one. So work the problems. That's going to be where it's at. You're definitely going to run into some the more complex you make this. But the main thing is start simple, add complexity where you need it. Do not make too many faces. It will become a nightmare to control. Good luck with it.